Legislative Delegation meeting. For those of you just joining us, we've been here since 3 o'clock in our earlier sessions. We heard from cities and counties and school boards and government entities, and now it's our intention to hear from constituents in Lake County, and we have on our agenda a number of you who let us know ahead of time you wanted to speak. And then we certainly, if any of you came in and we didn't know you wanted to speak, there are speaker cards in the back. If you fill them out, you can hand them in to Yadira or Sarah or Laura at this table, and we're going to try and get to, well, we will get to everybody before we adjourn. We have a few items of business to do. We have already done the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag and the prayer from earlier, and we recessed, so we won't be doing that again, but I did want each of the members of the legislative delegation to introduce themselves and any of their staff members in the audience and say anything that they want to say. And we'll start with Representative Precourt.
Steve Precourt, House District 41, part of Osceola County, part of Orange County, and South Lake County. And this is my third term here. I had two of my aides here earlier, but I believe I gave them permission to head home. So I believe they have. Thanks.
I'm Marlene O'Toole, District 42. I serve Lake County, Sumter County, and a portion of Marion County. My legislative aide is Josh Blake. If you stand, Josh, if anybody wants to give him a business card or collect one of mine, we'd be happy to give you one of those. I'm eager to serve the year. I'm on my second term, and I can't wait to get going.
My name is Paula Dockery. I've had the privilege of serving in both the Florida House for 6 years and now in the Florida Senate. I am term limited in 2012, so as all of those around me are on the up cycle of their political careers, I'm winding mine down, and as such, last year when I missed this delegation meeting, I was elected chair in my absence, so I and we have full attendance here today. It is my privilege to represent Lake County. I actually live in Lakeland in Polk County, representing 5 counties. I have this is the perfect advertisement for why redistricting needs to be done a little differently. I have Hernando County, Polk County, Lake County, Osceola County, and Sumter County. And in fact, to get to Hernando, you have to go through Pasco County, but I don't have Pasco County. So I think that we need to do a better job, but I wouldn't trade any of my districts, and I'm very pleased to represent Lake County, although out of a district of 400,000 constituents, only 8,000 of them live in Lake County. So if you all haven't seen me, it's primarily because I don't have a city, I don't have a school, I have nothing in Lake County other than some rural folks in South Lake County. But know that I consider your issues very important to me, as though I represented half of the county. And with me today, I have 3 of my staff members: Yadira, who put the meeting together, Sarah, and Laura, who's out searching for water. Here she is. And if you need anything during this meeting, please visit one of them, and they'll get you all set up. Representative?
Thank you, Senator Dockery. I'm Representative Charles VanZant. I have 6 counties. The portion of Lake County that I have is everything north of Altoona. So if you want to get greeted by folks in the country or see an alligator, raccoon, or bear, you can contact my office. My legislative aide is with me this evening. Mayor Joe Marchant Hall, Mayor Joe, there she is. And the other portions of District 21 that I represent are all of Putnam County, the large southern part of Clay County, everything below State Road 16, the large eastern portion of Marion County. Geographically, I have more of Marion County than all of the other representatives put together, but less people. And a portion of Bradford County, and so I think that's all of my counties. Volusia County, the northeast portion of Volusia County. But I'm glad to be here today, and I mentioned earlier that the Speaker has assigned me to the Select Committee on Water for the entire state, and so I'll be really careful about that. We have a lot of water in my district everywhere, and that's one of the issues that I campaigned on. This is my 3rd year in the House coming up, and so I'm here to do everything I can to protect Florida's water. It's our largest natural resource. Thank you.
I'm Alan Hayes, and thank each of you for caring enough about your government to be here tonight and to either listen or to make your voices heard. We appreciate it very much. It's been my privilege over the last 6 years to serve as the representative for District 25, and now the voters have honored me with making me the senator for District 20. And I have all of Lake County in my Senate district except that small portion that Senator Dockery has. But the Senate district stretches from about 15 miles west of Wildwood to the northeastern corner of the land, and from about 10 miles south of Claremont all the way to downtown Bellevue. So I get a lot of windshield time getting around to the district and welcome the opportunity to meet the people. I serve as the chairman of the General Government Appropriations Committee in the Senate. I'm on the Higher Education Appropriations Committee, the Committee for Children, Families, and Elder Affairs, for the Agriculture Committee, and as I said, the Higher Ed Approach, and then also the Reapportionment Committee. And if you got any questions, give me a call. I did not bring any staff. I decided to save some state money and not pay for travel today. I didn't let them come with me either one.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Larry Metz, and I'm the representative from District 25, Mr. Hayes here. And it's my privilege to be here this evening, and I'm a little bit jet lagged. My wife and I came back from the Middle East last night about 10:30 or so, back to the house. We visited our daughter who's in the Navy in Bahrain. Anyway, it's been my privilege to represent this district for the last 2 months, and I'm looking forward to my first session. My district staff is with me. Hilda Quintero is my district secretary. Hilda, please stand. And Lance Steffen is my legislative aide. Lance, thank you. And feel free to speak with them if you have any requests or need appointment time. I'm looking forward to hearing from you this evening and welcome the opportunity. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, members, if we can get to our 2 orders of business very quickly, is that you've had a chance to look over the 2 resumes for the seat on the Harris Chain of Lakes Restoration Council. At this time, is there a motion on which of the 2 candidates, if any, to appoint to the council?
I'd like to move that we appoint Mr. Woosley. I'd like to move we appoint Mr. Lloyd H. Woosley, Jr.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we appoint Lloyd H. Woosley as the member to the Harris Chain of Lakes Restoration Council. Is there any discussion? Is there any objection? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, well, congratulations. Skip, if you'll, we will notify Mr. Woosley, but you certainly are free to let him know ahead of time. And thank you for bringing that to our attention. We appreciate it. Okay, the other order of business, if we can take care of very quickly, that way if any of the members did have to leave prior to doing this, you will have voted on it. We need to elect the new delegation officers. And I just wanted to point out, and I'm certainly not doing this because I want to stay on as chairman, so I did put a list of rules in your book, and actually the rules state that the delegation chair shall serve a term of 2 years. But apparently, we didn't realize that last year, and you only served 1 year. And so, since I was voted into absentia, I think we should go back. So at this point, I'm going to open up the floor for nominations for chairman of the delegation, and I also want to mention that the vice chairman of the delegation, the chairman of the delegation would have to alternate, since I'm a senator, to a House member, and the vice chair needs to be a senator. The vice chair this year is Representative VanZant. And with that, are there any nominations?
Evidently, the rules were not made clear because I would have loved to have done it again. However, I think it's Representative VanZant's opportunity, and I nominate Representative VanZant to be next year's chair.
The next 2 years, Chair.
The next 2 years, because we want to follow the rules.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Are there any other nominations? Seeing none, show the nominations are closed. All those in favor of Representative VanZant serving as chairman of the Lake County Delegation for the next 2 years, unless he decides to have an election before then, but the rules do say 2 years, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Congratulations.
I just want to say that I'm here and got elected, so I don't understand.
Okay. Now we need a nomination for a senator, since there's only two of us, to serve as vice chair. And I'll pass the microphone to Representative Precourt.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I'd like to nominate Senator Hayes for vice chair of the delegation for the next 2 years.
No.
Is there a second? I second. Okay, it's been moved and seconded that Senator Alan Hayes would serve as vice chair of the Lake County Delegation. Are there any other nominations? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Congratulations, Senator Hayes. Okay. Thank you all for indulging us. We're here tonight because as your legislative delegation, we are going to Tallahassee for committee weeks in January and February, and then we're in session March and April for a 60-day period to represent the interests of those that we represent. So tonight is about hearing from you and what's important to you on whatever topic that the state government has a role in. So with that in mind, we'd love to hear from you. We have asked that you keep your presentations to 3 minutes. If you absolutely need an additional short amount of time to finish what you say, we're very happy to allow you that, but we want to get through every person who wants to speak. So we'll start with the oversight review process for special districts within Lake County, including the North Lake County Hospital District. This is an issue brought to us by Representative Larry Metz. Representative.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Madam Chair, for the opportunity. And fellow members of the delegation, the reason I put this on the agenda was I wanted to be sure that we could discuss it openly and not have a sunshine issue that I just brought up under board member comments. As you know, we have 2 hospital tax districts within Lake County. One of them lies predominantly within District 25, the North Lake Hospital Tax District. However, it's just one of several special districts that are located within Lake County. And during the course of the last 2 years, I've had the opportunity to research this and to hear a lot of public input on the issue. And I did further research, and it occurred to me that this North Lake Hospital Tax District, and perhaps others as well, it is not subject to any periodic review by the entity that created it. And that entity is the Florida Legislature. And I provided to the members in the packet here a copy of Section 189.428 Florida statute that deals with special districts and an oversight review process that is set forth in the statute. And
Members behind tab 7 in your book.
thank you, Madam Chair. And there's also a printout of a website information page on special district handbooks, the oversight review process chapter out of that handbook from the Department of Community Affairs. Now, this North Lake Hospital Tax District has been around for decades. The current special act that creates it, or I should say the most modern version of that special act, was put forth in the mid-1990s and establishes the 6-member board that's elected by the voters in different areas within that district. And they levy 1 mil off the property tax rolls in Lake County to fund 3 hospitals, Florida Hospital Waterman, Leesburg Regional, and Villages Regional Hospital. And these hospitals receive this public money under a provision in the Act that says they're to use it for hospital services. And there's no other description about it other than the fact that it's hospital services. There's a sort of a belief on the street, if you will, that this is for indigent care, and it might very well be that the money that they receive is used in part for that, but there's no definition of indigent care within the Act. There is just hospital services mentioned. Also, the board doesn't have the discretion to levy anything up to 1 mil. It's 1 mil or nothing under the current statute. There's no provision for auditing of the money that is given to the hospitals, and all those hospitals, by the way, are private entities and not public entities. So this was the type of information that came to the forefront, and I felt it necessary to bring it to the attention of the delegation and invite perhaps a discussion or even a decision about how we go about the oversight process for such a special district as that one. The statute seems to contemplate the local government authority who created the special district conducting the oversight review process, and it has criteria for the process. The chapter that I gave you out of the handbook indicates that some of the issues that are to be determined during an oversight review process are the need for the continued existence of the district, whether to dissolve the special district, whether to, for the appropriate future role and focus of the district, improvements in the functioning and delivery of services by the district, and the need for any transition, adjustment, or special implementation periods or provisions. So, to me, having a special act that takes an automatic $1 million for the taxpayers each and every year for such a broad and nebulous topic as hospital services cries out for oversight on a periodic basis, and yet there is none right now. And I've read the statute and wondered, well, who is going to do the oversight review process? I don't think it's going to be a unit of local government, because the unit of local government didn't create it. It doesn't have any say in the functioning or even the selection of its members. So I think my view is that it falls upon the legislature, and of course that means for practical purposes this delegation, to initiate a review process of this, to have a public dialogue, full transparency and accountability for what this district does and why it gets $1 million off the property tax rolls each and every year. I understand that these hospitals are fantastic. I've trusted my own care to them, and I would trust my family members to their care anytime. They're great hospitals, but that's not the issue. The issue is having good public policy and good oversight of that policy to make sure that the intent for the levy of $1 million, if that's what it is carried out effectively. And I don't think we have that process right now. So I'm essentially bringing to the attention of the delegation and suggesting that we take some action to advance a process of some kind that would yield information and recommendations for the legislative body to consider as a local delegation, and then eventually, if anything is needed to be done, then go to Tallahassee with that as a bill, a local bill. And I would say a timetable for that would be 1 year from now. And I would volunteer myself and my district office staff to be part of that process, but I would look for perhaps the participation of at least one other local delegation member to share the burden of the resources that are needed for that, perhaps a senator. That way we have complementary oversight both by the House and the Senate. And then all we would do is information gather, maybe have some public hearings on it, and then prepare a report to the delegation that can be the basis for a collaborative effort and reform, which I believe might be called for. But I want to obviously have a full, open, and transparent process of review leading to sound public policy recommendations. And that's why I brought the agenda item to the delegation for consideration. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Well, thank you for doing that, and I would say that I'm relieved and pleased that you're looking towards a year to do this, because I was looking back on the rules, and we're a little late in the process to try and do something this year, unless, of course, you come up with legislation and we notice it again with the proper notice, and then be able to take a vote 30 days prior, but we wouldn't have been able to take a vote today until the legislation was before, and we had a full public hearing on it. As long as I'm chair of the delegation, which we don't turn over until next year, if you all do your due diligence and want to convene another public hearing, I'm happy to do that. If you wait until Representative VanZant takes over, then it's certainly up to him at that point. We have 3 speaker cards of people who want to talk on this issue. What would be your desire, to hear them at this point, or to take them up when they come up in order of
I think the members of the delegation would be well served to hear all the input at one time, and then perhaps we can both decide on after the public input is done.
Okay, do you have any other comments you'd like to make at this time?
No, just perhaps a motion at the end of the presentation.
Okay, very good. So anybody else who wants to speak on this issue, now would be the time to turn in a speaker card. I have 3 individuals. The first one is Richard Riker.
I'm on the agenda.
We're going to take you out of turn and let you come up now,
Okay. All right.
since we're on that topic. The other 2, if you'll kind of take your place over here, maybe we can go a little quicker. Francis Grossi and Catherine Earhart. Those are the 3 individuals I have. So first we'll hear from Richard Riker. Richard, where'd you go?
I think it's right here.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I'll take the photo.
Now, for you to use the microphone, I have to turn mine off, so I'm turning mine off now.
Thank you for this opportunity to speak to you. My comments will be short. the citizens never got a chance to vote on this with this special tax district. That is one of the things in the legislation that they should have been able to do, but they never got that chance. I think, yeah, I don't believe the hospital would have objections, and I know we on the other side wouldn't have any objections. This should be put on the ballot for the people to vote on. Then you tell exactly what the people wanted, and this is for the people. Thank you.
Mr. Riker, before you leave, when you say put on the ballot, do you mean to abolish it, to change it?
Yes, to either abolish it or to change it, to abolish it. The bottom line is the people should have the right to say, yes, we like this tax, we think it's necessary, and we want it. Otherwise, it's just like the government, it's thievery. The government's taking the money from us without any recourses, taxation, without representation.
Maybe this is a good question for you, Representative. If it were to be abolished, what would happen to that 1 mil? Would it still be collected from the citizens, but it would be used for other purposes, or would it no longer be collected?
It would no longer be collected if it was completely abolished.
Okay. Next speaking is Francis Grossi. And I'll turn my microphone off so you can turn yours on.
All right, thank you for this opportunity to speak with you. I would like to talk about the special hospital tax and business, the effect that it has on them. I'd like to mention 2 facts in the beginning. There are 67 counties in Florida. Of those 67, there's only 10 counties that have a special hospital tax. Also, the unemployment figures for December, the Orlando metropolitan area had unemployment at the rate of 11.9%. This was last December. The state of Florida had 12% unemployment, and Lake County had 12.5% unemployment. Now, what does the cost of this hospital tax do to business? Well, businesses pay the lion's share of this tax. I'd like to give you an example of that. Progressive Energy and Sumter Electric paid $229,069 in 2008. That's quite a bit of money. Now, I was always told that businesses really don't pay taxes, that they pass it on to the consumer. Okay. But in the economy that we're in right now, I can see where other businesses may not want to pass that on to the consumer. In order to be competitive, I would say that a lot of businesses may have to cut their overhead, and in so doing, possibly let some of their employees go. That goes back to why I told you about the unemployment figures. What is the cost to the consumers? Well, possibly it could be higher prices, or it could be the unemployment. Now, if we go back and we talk about the competitiveness of the businesses, I want to look at the different counties, and if the people in Lake County are paying this tax, the businesses are paying that tax, and they're trying to compete with businesses outside the county that aren't paying that tax, it's going to be much more difficult for them. What might the cost to the hospital be? I know the hospital has spoken that they have trouble with unpaid bills. There's many people who do not have insurance, so they have no coverage. And they talk about the indigent care. Well, if we have high unemployment in Florida, that causes these problems. What is in Lake County's future?
Time's up, but if you take another minute to kind of wrap it up.
Just 1 minute, that's it. What is in Lake County's future? Okay. During my campaign, I had the opportunity to listen to a lot of the county commissioners, and one of the things that was talked about a great deal was the fact of inviting business into Lake County. This is really important. We're trying to bring as much business here, and as you can tell by the unemployment rates that I mentioned, this is really needed. Also, our new governor has talked about bringing in as many as 700,000 new jobs in the next 7 years. Hopefully, Lake County will be a part and have a good part of those 700 jobs coming in. Thank you.
Francis, we have a question from Representative VanZant. Are we to understand that you are on the hospital tax board?
Yes, I am. Trustee.
Thank you, Ms. Grossi. May I ask you a question?
Yes.
I didn't ask my first one. Can I have two questions?
Sure.
First of all, could you describe the area of the expenditure of this tax? For instance, the hospital, 3 hospitals are here, and they spend the tax over a larger area than the tax is extracted from, within the taxing district only, and is it only for indigent care? I'm just curious as to how this works.
Okay. As we heard earlier, I think there's a lot of questions about the oversight of where the tax is being spent and how it's being spent. So that's a difficult question to answer. As far as I know, it's being spent by those hospitals.
Are you for or against the tax?
I am against the tax.
Okay. Dr. Catherine Errol.
Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. I have 5 questions to ask you. I've appeared here before, or not here, but at your hearings before. Some of you were not members of this committee before. So I decided to approach it a little differently and to raise some questions. The first is, why do we still need a hospital tax that was started by the legislature over 50 years ago? Then the tax was warranted because we needed to build a hospital in the northwest part of the county and convert the Waterman Hotel into a hospital in the northeast part of the county. However, today things are different. And as Representative Metz just pointed out, you are the designated legal oversight body. You are responsible for determining if this tax is still warranted. And this will require an examination of required financial data that's reported by the hospitals to the federal government in lieu of just opinions and testimony. My second question is, how much profits do the hospitals need to make each year before enough is enough? As many of you know, I'm a researcher. I've looked at the financial report. You also have my sign-in sheet. You can get in touch with me. I'm happy to meet with you and go over the data that is available to you. 3, my third question is, how much are you committed to keeping your pledge to uphold the Florida Constitution? Take a look at the minutes of your last hearing on September 9th, 2009, there was credible historical testimony by a citizen named Marilyn Boehner that the current tax and its purpose was never established by a referendum as required by the Constitution. The fourth question is, at that same hearing, former Senator Baker volunteered to get a legal opinion from the Attorney General about the constitutionality of the legislature establishing a tax without a referendum. An ordinary citizen can't do that. It has to be someone like a legislator. My question is, are you puzzled, as I was, as to the reason why, near the end of the hearing, that Mr. Hayes committed himself to getting the Attorney General's opinion instead of Senator Baker? And are you equally puzzled, as I am, that the question that was asked by Mr. Hayes was different from the issue raised by Mrs. Bainter and responded to by the Attorney General? It was quite different from the issue raised by Mrs. Bainter. Number 5, how high does unemployment have to get in North Lake County and businesses have to decline before you end this tax? As Mrs. Grossi gave you some statistics about. Obviously, from her data, businesses in Orange and Seminole counties are doing better because they don't pay this added tax, and their hospitals are doing fine without it. And to answer your question, when I looked at the research data, if I understood the one that you asked Mrs. Grossi, yes. In the audited financial reports and in the forms that the hospitals have to report to the federal government, the same to the IRS department, even though they don't pay taxes, there is evidence that substantial millions of dollars are being given to or being transferred to areas and services outside of Lake County. I'm happy to, I provided you with documentation of that. If you look at the handouts you got last September, I took one hospital and did a little bit of a detail on it. I'm happy to go into more detail. Thank you.
Thank you. And do we have backup materials she's pointed to that we have?
There's things from last year.
And are they in our book?
No, I didn't know.
Okay.
I was not aware that those were coming up, but I do have copies of the office.
Okay. Ma'am, if you could arrange to send them to you here, I'll have a set, and if any member of the committee needs that, just let us know. Senator Hayes, did you want to comment towards, because I'm not sure I understood your one question about Senator Baker and Senator Hayes, and I think it's only fair to let him respond.
Perhaps an apology might be in order for me to say, ma'am, I totally forgot all about that. And candidly, I would like to go back and look through any documentation we might have to find out what issue you're talking about that I tried to change that Mrs. Boehner was bringing up. I mean, basically, I'm in a fog, is what it boils down to. But, call my office, let's arrange an appointment, we'll sit down and look at it. If indeed I said I'll get an AG opinion on it, then I'll get an AG opinion on it. And I'll be happy to let anybody know what that opinion is, and we'll certainly get to the bottom of it. But I apologize for dropping the ball.
No, you didn't drop the ball. My concern had to do with the fact that Mrs. Bainter raised a question as to whether or not the Constitution was being violated because there was no public referendum and the tax was established by the legislature. She explained everything in historical review. Your question to the Attorney General, as I understand, Ms. Baker's response was from your staff. You asked the Attorney General if it was constitutionally appropriate for the districts to merge. That was never a question. It's obviously legal for them to merge. There's nothing in the Constitution that prohibits that. That was my wonder.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification. Now it's all coming back. Exactly. And candidly, I do recall the acquisition of that opinion on the merger. But to say that was a switch of the original issue, I don't know. But I'll get the Attorney General to tell us whether or not this is a constitutional thing, and now in her opinion, I will get that for you, okay? Thank you.
Yes, Representative VanZant.
I just wanted to, I'm green. I just wanted to make a comment before you all to Representative Metz. If we're putting together a local bill, and if that bill is going to have oversight or some modification of what's currently happening in the hospital taxing district itself, then I would suggest that we include that immediately this all would go before a referendum before the people, that they would either accept or reject this tax upon them, and what the maximum amount might be if they accept it. They may in fact see the need for the hospital tax, but they may not see the need for it to be 1%, and that bill should have the words up to 1%. So those two words, so thank you.
Yes, Representative O'Toole.
Representative Metz, one of the questions I have for you is, you mentioned there are 10, or I think one of the speakers spoke, there are 10 that have the same situation. What are they doing on oversight? What are the other taxing districts doing? What is the precedent that's been set?
I don't know the answer to that, Representative O'Toole. I've not had a chance to really investigate the other districts, but certainly the review that I contemplate us doing would be not only to see what's internally going on in the hospitals to get the money from our taxpayers, but also how our district compares with other counties that either have them or don't have them. Because you have to start out with the premise that we have 67 counties and only 10 of them have this district. We must we assume that the other 57 counties have substandard hospitals, or do they also have quality hospitals? And if so, how do they manage to do that without the tax? And what separates us from them so that we have to have a tax? That's all part of the oversight process that I think we need to undertake.
And then my second question was, is there a 5-member elected board for this hospital district, voted for by the people? Six members voted for by the people on an election ballot. What is their responsibility underneath the opportunity that they have been elected to do? What is their opportunity to look at how this money is being spent? Is that something that they already have as part of being an elected board? Haven't the people already said, these are the 6 people we want to represent the hospital taxing district? And do they have any oversight review?
Okay, and you want me to cover the mic? Probably should have that on.
Yes.
One of the flaws in the current special act that I saw when I reviewed it is the fact that the finances of the board itself are audited. So they take the money that they receive from the tax collector, they might pay their attorney for the services provided, whatever other bills they might have at the board level, and then they remit to the hospital the rest of the money. And after that, there's no auditing of the money. The board does not audit the hospital. It only has an audit of its own financial account, which is very limited. So there is no real oversight exercised by the board over the hospitals, at least not that we've seen in their meetings that I know about. I haven't been to their meetings, but I've been aware of people who have been there who have reported back that they just basically are a pass-through board. And the late Tom Wetherington served on that board for 12 years, and he told me it was a pass-through board. And that was all that they did, is they just certified the money and pay it out. And it's $1 million each and every year. Now think about this, just as a sort of an intriguing fact. During the boom of our economy, when we had 4% unemployment, and we had property values going up every year, these hospitals received through this board $1 million at that time. So the presumption would be, if you have 4% unemployment, you're going to have more people on health insurance, less people seeking indigent care, and yet at that very time, they got more money than they ever got before because property values were soaring at that point. There wasn't any judgmental policy making by the hospital taxing board to say, okay, we only need $500,000 this year because property values doubled since 2 years ago when we, paid out the money we paid. That type of judgment is never exercised. It's always $1 million. It's been $1 million, as far as I know, every year it's existed. So why is it that the school board gets $2 million of its money for proper capital improvement reduced to $1.5 million because budgets are tight? Why is it that we have amendment after amendment on the ballot for property tax reform, because property taxes are too high, why is it that no one's even watching over this special district to see whether in fact it needs to exist, and if so, how should it be set up? And that would include the millage rate that it should levy, the standards that should apply to that money, the accountability for that money through auditing and clawback for funds that aren't used for the state and public purpose. None of that exists right now. I'd be prepared to have a local bill in front of this delegation for this session if it was up to me, but I also believe that process is important, and it's not just about my ideas, but it's about the community, and the community's paying the bills on this thing. And so I think we ought to engage our community in a full, transparent oversight process that will allow us to know exactly what the money's being used for, how we compare to other counties that have it and that don't have it, whether we need to have it. Those questions that I read out earlier all need to be answered, and some legwork has to be done. I'm prepared to take some initiative on that, sort of, invest some time and effort on my part, but I don't want to be out there as a lone ranger. I'm a member of the team that seek it all here. We all represent Lake County together, so I want to do it with the full knowledge and participation of the delegation in some manner that will produce a very good policy recommendation, and we can all say, okay, this has been fully vetted through the public oversight process, and now we feel comfortable changing things. And, what should that look like? Well, it might vary depending on what the process yields, but I think Representative VanZant is certainly indicating something that I believe in, that is we're going to continue it into the future. It ought to be voter approved. And the voters are quite capable of saying they want to tax themselves with something worthy of that. But we have to give them the leadership that they need to be able to have that opportunity. And they're not going to have it unless we take action here in this delegation. So.
Okay, a couple more questions over here, and then it would be my intention, I think all the comments made have been excellent, to allow the last two speakers to talk and then recognize you for a motion, but I certainly would not be in any position to vote one way or the other before I did a lot of research on the issue. So I'm looking forward to hearing what you all find out.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to reinforce what Senator Dockery just said. As you indicated, there is a lot of history here. And several of the things that I heard you say were more along the lines of, well, I don't know what's going on with this. I don't know. A lot of the questions you asked, we've asked the past couple of years. In particular, things like, why was this established in the first place? Before we go and do something, and kind of like the doctors say, the first thing we want to do is do no harm. And underlying my experience with hospitals is that their emergency rooms are having a terrible problem funding them right now. So I'm not defending this one, I'm not attacking it, I'm just saying, we've asked. I wasn't here last year, but I was here the year before when we discussed this, and I think we discussed it the year before, but I'm not sure. And I specifically asked, tell me the parade of horribles that usually justifies the effort that we're going to put forward to review this. And I'm all for reform, all for cutting taxes. I think it's a great idea. We need to have transparency. We need to understand the use of these funds. But before we roll out a bill that says whatever it's going to say, a local bill, I would like to understand why we're doing it. In specifically, not just because we don't know, but specifically why we're in. What is that parade for? What is the type of reform we're looking for? What is the historical background behind all this stuff? What are the ramifications of the local bill that might change or put new constraints on this, or increase it, or decrease it? What are we going to do with that? And then I guess my fundamental question is, are you at this point in time asking us to start a study commission? Are you asking us to go forward with a local bill? Or are you asking us to have you go out and some of the resources, you and whoever else here, and do kind of a preliminary study to decide if we want to establish a commission? So, and then I guess finally, I understand the governor's office, and Senator Dockery would know a lot more about this, has a particular interest in these type of issues with state funding for private institutions, and especially in the medical arena. So there's a lot of history here. I think right now it's kind of all out there in different forms and pieces, and it does need to be pulled together, and somebody needs to take the bull by the horns and do that. I'm glad you're stepping forward to do that. But I just wanted to give you a heads up on some of the issues that have been historically floating around.
I'm going to call on the last two speakers and then have you wrap up this discussion. I think it's Philip Braun. Is it Philip? Yeah. Is there a Philip as well that's speaking on something else?
Yes, more about
Okay. Okay, Philip. You're recognized.
Thank you, local delegation. I won't take up a lot of time on a very complicated issue. I am general counsel for Leesburg Regional Medical Center. I've talked to many of you about this issue. We appreciate Representative Metz's idea of looking at this. I think there's a lot of misconceptions, a lot of misstatements made about the hospital district and what it's there for and what happens there. It should be studied. We've been welcome transparency. In fact, the hospitals give audited financials to the district, to the elected board, the 6th elected board. There has been 2 elections in the last 4 years where the public has supported candidates who are in favor of the tax district. So they've had an opportunity to vote in or out those people who they think would favor the tax or not. So there is representation with this board. It is also the constitutional question. I wanted to address that because I wanted to make sure the delegation knows that there is a current lawsuit out there against the district, against its own board member has filed a lawsuit against itself. The property appraiser, the tax collector, the 3 hospitals are all been in the suit, and the question in that suit is the constitutionality of that district. I feel pretty confident. I don't want to say too much about it since it is in litigation. That it is constitutional, and that at the end of the day, the courts are going to rule that it is constitutional. So that's another misconception out there. There was a question about where the money is used. It is provided. In fact, there's a second audit because the money is actually most of the money, majority of the money, is sent through what they call LIP program, which actually leverages more dollars back to the local area to be used for health care, and that money is sent to for Medicaid and indigent care. It's actually certified for that, and that's really where the majority of that money goes to. Yes, we spend money on a lot of other things, but that money is sent to Tallahassee, is matched with federal dollars that the county would not get otherwise. And so I welcome the study. We hope we'll participate with you in any way, answer any questions. We've always been open to do that, and I didn't know if there were any more specific questions that I could maybe answer.
So is it your position that you're in favor of this, not to abolish?
I've got a question.
Okay.
Am I correct in thinking that match is 120%?
It's close to that. It's quite a nice amount.
That's what I thought. So for every $100 we send to Tallahassee that sends to Washington, we get 120 back.
Right, and we go outside this county.
Right. And then do you take all of that $120 and use it to offset your uncompensated care and your indigent care? Is that correct?
Contract with Medicaid, with Optum. That's what that money is.
Okay, thank you very much. Now we have Dan Joaquin. Yoko. Sorry. Did you bring out the Christmas present? We're not allowed to take anything.
I'm just going to give you kind of a brief background. I think people at the North Lake County Hospital District have seen this once. And that's that in this area, to compare what you've been talking about to the Disney Foundation, they come up with grants and they give money out to different organizations. And I've been to a meeting where they laid out all their criteria for how the money is to be spent. Things like you can't use it to pay for big raises. You can't use it for overhead. You got to use it for direct services for what they have decided, which is kids. They've defined 4 specific areas where they want kids to go. Now let's compare it to the hospital district. As was kind of mentioned, what happens is the board gets about $10 million. And they put it in a pot, and they give it to the 2 hospitals, who then split the portion off to the 3rd, which is actually LifeStream, not the Villages Hospital. And they give them the money, and there's no criteria. There's nothing in the law. The board has been asked, by the way, there are 4 board members on there now that are all pro-hospital. 2 or 3 of them were selected without going through an election, or no one ran against them because at the time nobody knew about it. And so in the last 2 years, a lot of this information is coming out. So they get this money, they can spend it on anything. No matter what Mr. Braun says, they do have a financial audit, that's a hospital audit. But this money goes into basically the general fund. Now, I was a corporate auditor for companies like Nissan, Arco, and oil companies. I was the chief anti-corruption investigator in Iraq for 2 years for the reconstruction program. And what I say personally is that there is no oversight on how this money is spent. Neither the board who's been asked, I mean, it's been working up to you, is that the board has been asked to set some criteria, to maybe ask that there be a specific audit trail to see where that money goes, not just hear testimony, but to actually be able to verify that it didn't go out to spend $5 million for a new facade in one of the hospitals, okay? Or to hide pink flamingos for an area in the back. Right now, they can do all that, and we don't know because it's all flamingos. And so the question is that if you're going to be in charge of tax money, then you should define what the rules are, the acceptability, at least like Disney does, or any of the grant programs the county does. Federal grants, state grants, they all have rules about what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. And probably, I think you're on the finance committee, and Mr. VanZant did too, that they should have some rules about how you spend money from the budgets and everything. There are no rules. And then there's no way to trace it as an auditor. I can tell you that, yes, they have that financial audit, but it's of their general, it's of the whole hospital statement. And what you need is a program audit and a program tracking system. And I've got a point, I've been going through this for 2 years, I've been following all of it. I document it on the blog that I write. 3 of you know what that is. And the rest of it is my information in the packet there. Do I get one more minute?
Go ahead.
Okay. And so it's called fiscalrangers.com. I've got a lot of articles on there, and I would be more than happy to reassemble it and put it together information for you. But to me, it comes down to complete lack of oversight on the part of the taxpayers. The board, the 4 board members, what I call the majority, have refused to even authorize taping of their meetings, video meetings. It takes forever to get their minutes transcribed. We have to get and sit and listen to the audio tapes. They have not been helpful at all. They have not even given seconds when Mr. Boehner has asked to discuss things on the board. And so it's been travesty, and I think it needs a review, and I think that it needs to be out in the open. And that's why I also now agree with other people that this should go on the ballot as one having a revised law completely with accountability. Thank you.
Okay, so let me say this.
If in fact the selected board, who is required to act under the Government and the Sunshine Law, is not doing so, then please contact our office or the Governor's Office on Open Government, because you are entitled to the information that comes out of that body. So that's the
We haven't
first
been able to get it, but it's been kind of hard.
Okay. And the second issue is that do we have the actual enacting language that set forth this authority? Okay.
I don't have a full package here today, Madam Chair. I mean, I thought this was going to be a process that we would work ourselves through.
And it should be, yes. Thank you. Would you like to kind of close out this segment?
Yes, I appreciate the comments that we received from the public as well as the fellow members of the delegation. And Representative Precourt, your comments were well taken, and I believe underscore the need for oversight, because if we have these questions and we don't have the answers, that suggests very well the need for oversight. I'm not sure, as the newest member of the delegation and not having been involved in oversight review for an agency like this, I was on the school board. I know the school board was very proactive with our budget oversight. We went through the budget line by line with rulers in hand every year. And that's how we understood our budget and how we were able to balance it. But in this situation, I'm prepared to volunteer my time and staff support that I have to help do a review of this, but I think I need additional assistance. And I think maybe a subcommittee of this delegation or 2 perhaps would be a good way to proceed. And I don't know if anyone wants to volunteer to help me with the project. The idea behind it would simply be to engage in a full review process, like Mr. Madison mentioned to me earlier today. He's here today. We had Mr. Braun mention he welcomed a during his testimony here, a review of this. I think information gathering is important. I think comparative analysis is important. Historical analysis is important. All of that's important. It's going to take some time and effort to put it all together and then be able to come up with a reasonable agenda for improvement. And I think that would include probably letting the voters decide ultimately. But, so Madam Chair, I don't know if a motion is what it takes, but I'd like to ask for some, reaching out for some support from the other members of the delegation, and then we could perhaps work it as a team.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will volunteer to work with Representative Metz on this thing. But I hasten to add to that we're not looking at Larry and Alan sitting down and making an analysis and coming back and making a recommendation to this delegation. We're talking about some serious money that's going to involve some serious accounting, and we're putting the hospitals to the tremendous data gathering expense, et cetera, et cetera. So before I commit to say, yes, Larry and I will bring back a report, we've got to have some financial backing that says, okay, guys, here's your budget. You can go out here and spend X number of dollars. You can get ACA, or you can get this agency, that agency, whomever, the Auditor General or somebody else. But I am not qualified to make an assessment of the impropriety or the properness of the expenditures of hospitals. It's going to take some expert opinion to do that sort of thing. I'm willing to help facilitate and bring this about, but don't come looking to Larry and me for expert opinions, because I can tell you, a dentist and a lawyer is not what you need.
Perhaps that type of inquiry that you're referring to, Senator Hayes, would be addressed in a local bill. I'm just throwing out that maybe a local bill for the current session that would authorize that assistance that Senator Hayes said that we need. Otherwise, how are we going to get it? Yeah, I mean, that I'd be prepared to work on and bring back when we have the vote on the other local bill that we're talking about working on for the city of Mount Dora. A simple bill that would establish some support for the process that we want to undertake. Is that what you had in mind, Senator Hayes, as far as getting the support? Or?
My first impression is that's a good beginning, but quite candidly, I think we need a little time to massage this thing and see where we're going with it.
Yeah, the oversight review process I'm hoping we can do in next year, and then it'll be the year from now that we can consider subsequent changes, if any. That's what I've been contemplating, not the changes right now, but just the process.
Anybody else comment?
Okay, first of all, a local bill is, what you're talking about for funding would not be a local bill, it would be an appropriation, and it would be a member project because it would be specific to here, and we've already been told in the Senate that there is no money for local projects. So finding funding for this fact-finding mission is not going to happen. I would like the two of you, since you both live in Lake County, to be the ones gathering some information. My office can aid from Polk County in terms of gathering, photocopying, being the repository of information and getting it out to people. But as I've learned in this process long ago, I was originally going to say to you, get both sides of the issue, but it's not both sides, it's all sides. I mean, it's the hospital side, it's the public side, it's the and also the board. And the elected board members are the ones who really should be taking they're the ones who are local, who should be the ones that are most responsive to the people on this issue, and there are 6 of them. I would think that we'd like to hear from all 6 of them and maybe even have a vote from them of where their board is. And so I'm happy to pursue this. There does need to be time. I don't know where the resources would come from other than maybe Senate staff and House staff, committee staff, but most of that is going to have to take a back seat to after session is over because they're focused on session now. But starting in May, when they have some spare time, they can be, our resources could come from them in terms of staff help.
Madam Chair, I would submit that it should be the responsibility of those duly elected members of the hospital board to do what we're talking about here. It's not the legislature's job to do that. That hospital board should, I mean, nothing says that they have to give all that money, do they? Can they use some of that money to pay for this type of inquiry?
Okay, let me pass this back to either you or Representative Metz, and if we could have somebody from the hospital board come up, we're going to make a request of you, and we'd like to know whether you are going to fulfill the request.
Is anyone here from the hospital board? Ms. Boehner, you're from the hospital board. Ms. Grassi, you're from the hospital taxing district board, I mean. Do you have any other taxing district members here? Nobody speaks up, so these are the only two taxing board members.
I just want to make sure that the board members here don't get into a sunshine situation, because they're not noticed to discuss anything here at this meeting, so I would not want them to collaborate at the podium there. I feel that would be a sunshine issue.
Okay.
But I think, if I could just, before I hand the mic back and I'll bring closer to this, I think if one of them could speak, that's fine, probably, but they can't both collaborate at the podium there. On the sunshine issue is my concern. But, Madam Chair, I believe that the idea that the board itself...
Wait a minute. This is sunshine. This is open to the media.
But I think they can't collaborate on a decision they would make as board members here, because it's not noticed in the agenda for their boards. They can talk to us, but they can't talk to each other.
Madam Chairman, why don't you, as the chairman of the delegation, write a letter to the hospital board chairman asking these types of questions?
Okay, here's what we're going to do. Representative Metz, since you brought this up, I would like you to put into writing what you would like my letter to the board to say, what information we're looking for, and we'll see if they cooperate with us. Okay? And with that, thank you all for being here. Thanks for bringing the issue up. And I'm going to personally be doing some background checking into this. When it was 50 years ago, why it was formed, what the exact language says, what kind of oversight is there, what is the responsibility of the board, because really in my mind this decision making belongs to the 6 people that are on that board, and that the voters of Lake County have the ability to make their wants, needs, and desires known through their election to the board, and that's why we have them elected. But if, when all is said and done, there is no definitive answer coming from that, then we, as the body who puts that law into effect, need to intervene if that's the will of the people that we represent. I'm just not convinced that it's the will of all of our constituents. It may be a very narrowly defined group that is opposed to this, and I don't want to make a decision based on not having all the facts. So if you'll send that information to me, I'll draft a letter, I'll send it to all of you for your approval, and then we'll send it out to the board. In the meantime, I'll be doing some independent research, and if you want to as well, that's wonderful. But there is going to be no funding for us to do that outside of our legislative budget and our home staff time. Okay, with that being said, let's move on to our next Leesburg Regional Medical Center, Phyllis Long.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll try not to be redundant to what we've already talked about here with the tax district, but good evening. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you. My name is Phyllis Long, and I am the Chief Executive Officer for Leesburg Regional Medical Center. I wanted to take just a couple minutes tonight to talk to you about some of the challenges we have, but also some of the accomplishments and the plans for the future related to Leesburg Regional. Both Florida Hospital, Waterman, and Leesburg Regional understand the concerns around the North Lake County Hospital District and continue to work to welcome transparency and oversight. So we will continue to work with you through this issue. As you can see from the handout I provided, and we did provide a handout that's in your packet, we do provide charity care at Leesburg Regional that exceeds the funds taken from the tax district. Our operating margin for year 2010 was 1.1%, which is $2.5 million.
Members go to tab 8.
That was $2.5 million with our operating margin for the year. Without the tax district funds, we would have experienced a negative operating margin at Leesburg Regional Medical Center and would have had to make some very difficult decisions regarding services provided. I've heard a lot of questions here about why our county is different than the other counties in the state. One of the unique challenges that Lake County faces is our Medicare population. Most of the counties in the state, and actually the average county Medicare population served by hospitals is 46%. In Lake County, that's 59%. At Leesburg Regional, it's 67%. When you incorporate Medicaid along with self-pay, in addition to this Medicare, it represents over 82% of our payer mix. Medicare, Medicaid, and self-pay do not cover the cost of providing services. Without larger commercial insurance bases, and I can give you that again, and it's on the Florida hospital. Okay, the Medicare rate for the Medicare for most hospitals in the state of Florida, the average is 46%. For Lake County, it's 59%, and for Leesburg Regional, it's 67%. Again, when you incorporate all three, Medicare, Medicaid, and self-pay, for Leesburg Regional, it's about 82% or a little higher. So when you look at the lack of a commercial insurance base, it's really not possible for us to subsidize the shortfalls in charity care at our current service level. As a not-for-profit hospital, mission-driven organization, we provide services based on the community needs. Despite slim margins and challenges noted above, however, we continue to invest in our community. The downturn of the economy resulted in more of our community members not having jobs or affordable health care, making our partnership in Leesburg with the Baptist Church even more important than ever, and the Community Medical Care Center. We served over 6,600 patient visits this year, and that number continues to climb. We've also focused on growth of services. We've added, we do have at Leesburg the second largest open heart volume in the state of Florida, based a lot on the population that we serve. So we've spent a lot of time focusing on increasing our services, cardiac rehab. We've increased to a transradial access approach for heart catheterization. We've become a center of excellence for heart valve surgery at Leesburg Regional. We've also added 7 new beds for inpatient rehabilitation services, and we've been designated for specialty stroke services in both of our facilities. We did just complete and are in the process of completing a renovation project. I'd like to clarify the reason for that. We are almost 50 years old at Leesburg Regional Medical Center, and we have made a commitment to stay in the community. To do that, we had to address some of the issues on a very old building. We had to replace windows that were not energy efficient. We had to deal with some heating and cooling issues, as well as put a new roof on the building. So yes, it does look nice, and we're happy about that, but we were very physically responsible when we put that money out in this time of need. We also were able, however, I'd like to mention, to put many individuals to work in the community that were out of work to do this during this down economic time. In addition, we partnered with H. Lee Moffitt Cancer Center, and we will be beginning in 2011 at the Leesburg campus building a cancer center for us. Building a cancer center, and that will open in 2012. Not only will that allow for world-renowned cancer center locally, but it'll bring more professional jobs to our community and more advancements for the economy. As the second largest employer in Lake County, we employ over 1,900 people at Leesburg Regional. And during the recent economic downturn, we did not cut any jobs, even though we did focus very consciously on how to become more efficient. Our business activities, directly and indirectly, created 3,400 jobs for the community, and our Lake County economic impact was $287 million. So again, as you can see, we've been a good partner. We focused our efforts on making sure we provide the services for Leesburg and our communities and those that we serve, and investing in the local economy and growing our future. So thank you for the time tonight, and just wanted to update you on our process. I'd be happy to answer questions.
Okay, thank you. And I could ask you any information
that you want to share with me on the taxing district, please send directly to my office, and I'll make it available to all the other members. And I mean that offer to any of you out there who have information that you want to share on that topic. And my business cards are on the back tables that have an email address, or you can send it in regular mail, either way. Any questions? Okay, thank you for being with us. Next, we'll go to the Family Care Council, Betty Kay, and members behind tab 9 in your book.
Betty Kay, it's going to be Isabel.
It's going to be me. Okay, Isabel, if you'll say your name for the record.
Hi, my name is Isabel Sanchez de Martinez, and I am the current chairperson for the Family Care Council. Normally, Betty is the one that comes and does this, but I am here today. I want to tell you a little bit about what we do. Our agency is under Florida statutes. We are all volunteer appointed by the governor. We have agencies, we have 14 APD areas, and our purpose is to advise the agency for persons with disabilities. We have open meetings every second Monday of each month from 10 to 12 at the Agency for Persons with Disabilities office in Wildwood. Our mission is to promote the welfare and dignity of the individuals with a developmental disability, allowing each person to achieve his or her full potential and preserving the family's ability to function as a unit. We do have many issues and concerns, and one of them is we want to continue being a voice of the individuals with developmental disabilities by ensuring that the Florida Family Care Council be at the table whenever issues affecting the people with developmental disabilities is discussed. There's talk of consolidation of agencies, and should that occur, our voice may be lost if not heard of this issue. The integrity of services and supports for our individuals simply cannot sustain any more costs, and individuals and their families need input on these significant issues. We have a large waiting list of individuals not receiving services. There are 30,000 families currently receiving waiver funding, and about 20,000 families on the waiting list. In lieu of that, we do have some good news that I wanted to share with you. And the Agency for Persons with Disabilities has partnered through a grant with AmeriCorps, and we're very excited about this opportunity to bring this to the community. And we're as mentioned with the CEO of Volunteer Florida, it's a fantastic opportunity for people with disabilities to become an AmeriCorps member and serve Florida's communities. What basically I'm asking you is that allow me to be in touch with you and to work together and see what can be done to assist our folks. And also I wanted to read an excerpt from Volunteer Florida, and it says, disability inclusion and outreach is an essential element of AmeriCorps' success. National service is for everyone because everyone has something of value to offer. Among our goals is the full and proactive inclusion of individuals with disabilities. The AmeriCorps members with disabilities gain valuable experience and skills and provide the communities with the opportunity to work closely with persons with disabilities. The non-for-profit agencies, the civic groups, we all want to partner together and bring a solution to this era of recession and cuts and no money. So we want to bring a light to and hope that you are open to receive us. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, and thank you for what you do for those of our constituents with disabilities. Members will now go to Kids Central. Cynthia Schuler. You don't look like Cynthia.
Well, no, not this.
Okay, come on up and identify yourself for the record, please. We don't have any information unless we've handed it out. We have
Good evening, members of the Lake County Delegation. My name is Steve Hayes, not Cynthia Schuler, and I am representing Kids Central CEO Cynthia Schuler. I am the current chairman of the board for Kids Central, and with me is Danielle Romano. She's director of community development for Kids Central. Today we want to really just come to you with two main issues to bring to your attention. Kids Central is the nonprofit organization serving as the lead community-based care agency for child welfare services in Circuit 5, which includes Citrus, Hernando, Lake, Marion, and Sumter counties. First, we'd like to say thank you to the delegation for supporting our use of the Title 4E waiver by committing funds from the general revenue budget. That was incredible and allowed us to do some tremendous work for our citizens and their families that were in crisis. By marrying those federal dollars with matching state funds and regional oversight, we are able to strengthen families and foster stable environments to keep children out of the formal child welfare system. We've been advocating that for several years, and I appreciate all the work you've done for us as well. Because of this waiver this year, we were able to move $3 million towards the front of the system to help children stay safely in their homes and with their families instead of coming to the system. And I think that is just amazing. Second, though, we want to bring to your attention, we would like to make you aware of the Florida Coalition for Children, or the FCC, is currently drafting legislation for tort reform and child welfare. After it's drafted, our CEO, Cindy Schuler, is going to be making appointments to visit you all and give you a little more detail of our interest and to discuss the legislation with you. But we want to thank you first and also pique your interest on what we're going to be coming to you with relatively soon. I'll take any questions if anyone.
Members, any questions? And did you want to make any comments?
No.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thanks for what you do.
Thank you.
Okay, members, we'll now go to Early Learning Coalition of Lake County behind tab 10, and we have Lisha Buchbinder. Welcome.
Thank you very much, members of the delegation. As Senator Dockery said, my name is Lisha Buchbinder. I'm the Executive Director of the Early Learning Coalition of Lake County. In the past, I've had the opportunity to speak with each of you individually, or in some cases, your legislative aides, to stress the importance of the coalition and our programs for the community, children, and families of Lake County. So to see KCI here, we work very close with KCI to serve our families. I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak with you tonight about the importance of school readiness funding and its impact on Lake County. As you know, the coalition is one of 31 coalitions across the state, and we are the leading agency in Lake County for diversified education. Our vision is to ensure that all children enter kindergarten eager to learn and ready to succeed. One of the programs that I would like to address this evening is the importance of the school readiness program, which is responsible for subsidizing child care costs for low-income families. At this time, we are serving over 2,000 children in Lake County in the school readiness program, with over 300 children on the wait list. There's over 90,000 children on the wait list statewide. Funding is an important issue not only in Lake County, but throughout the state of Florida. Currently, if we were to serve the children on our wait list alone for 1 year, we would need an additional $1.1 million in Lake County to serve those families for 1 year. Statewide, the Early Learning Coalition, which combines all 57 counties, needs approximately $38 million in general revenue to serve all of our families that need subsidized child care services. The school readiness program not only allows for parents to place their children in quality early learning environments, but it also affords them the opportunity to go to work and school in order to provide a better life for themselves and their children and their future. Currently in Lake County, we have 846 parents that are actively employed as a result of the school readiness program and its dollars, which represents over $6.3 million in wages that come back into Lake County. As I said, those wages are then reinvested into the communities in which they live. It is critically important to remember the direct tie between the school readiness program and the local workforce. Quality early learning plays a significant role in Lake County's current and future economy by allowing parents to work, employing child care teachers, directors, and staff, paying wages and taxes, and purchasing goods and services from Lake County industries. Other ways that early learning plays a significant role in Florida's current and future economy is that the child care industry directly employs 70,000 people in 2006. And the child care industry generates approximately $1.1 billion in wages for Floridians and an additional $1.8 billion
is generated for industries that support child care settings and their workers for a total value of $2.9 billion to the state of Florida. Lastly, I would like to just ask each of you to keep the Early Learning Coalition on your agenda in this upcoming legislative session, and to do everything in your power to ensure that the children in Lake County and across the state of Florida receive the funding they need to remain safe, healthy, and continue to learn. I want to thank you again for allowing me the opportunity to speak to you this evening.
Thank you, and if you'll hold on, any questions?
Representative Toole.
Good evening. Question about the qualifications of the people that work with the children. Did I just hear you say they're teachers? Are they certified teachers?
They have all the way from CDA, so someone with their 40 hours, all the way through bachelor degree teachers in the diversified setting in Lake County.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay.
Senator Hayes.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. At the risk of being redundant to those who were here this afternoon, I appreciate very, very much the great results that y'all are having. But my comments are not directed to your program specifically, but to all the state programs. Folks, we are facing in Tallahassee a $3.5 billion shortfall in revenue next year. That means out of the $66 billion in this year's budget, we're expecting only $62.5 billion at the best next year. We've got to stop spending money. Your program is, I can almost guarantee you're not going to get any more money than you got this year. If you get the same amount, you better thank the good Lord after thanking the legislature. And really ought to thank him first. And the same thing for the APD folks. Y'all are serving a vital need in our society. So please don't take any cuts that may come your way as any indication of our estimation of the importance of your program. It's just dealing with the cold, hard reality. There is not enough money to sustain the spending levels that we have enjoyed over the last years in this state. That's all it is, folks. I told the gentleman at the break, the only difference in his budget and his business right here in Clermont and our budget in Tallahassee is the number of zeros on the left side of the decimal. And he's had to cut back in his business. We're having to cut back in our state business as well. Otherwise, we'd come to you and extract the money out of your pocket, and that's not going to happen. I can guarantee you that. We're just not going to have a tax increase. But this is, these programs are wonderful. Their results are excellent most of the time, but folks, and the wait list. We've heard this 20 or 30,000 people on the waiting list for APD. We've also heard stories, none of which I have verified, but we've heard stories that people know how to play the game. And when they have a child that they think may need services later on, they put them on the waiting list now. So I tend to think that waiting list might be inflated some. So we can't just look at that 20,000 number and say, oh my word, we're failing this many people, because we're not necessarily. But I say that, unfortunately, we hope you can hear our hearts as well as hear our words. Folks, there's just not enough money to sustain the spending levels that we've grown accustomed to.
Thank you. I appreciate you being here. And that certainly wasn't directed towards your program. It was there were great comments by Senator Hayes. We've been cutting and cutting and cutting the last couple of years, but this year is particularly bad as the federal stimulus dollars are not coming. And so a lot of people who don't want to take the federal stimulus dollars, that may be good news, but as a result of that, tough decisions are going to have to be made. And we don't anticipate being popular when we return from session in May. Okay, members, it will go on to Sunrise Park of Lake County, Vanessa Grant Oliver, and I don't believe we have any information behind any paths.
No.
Welcome, Vanessa.
Thank you. Good evening, members. My name is Vanessa Grant Oliver. I'm an attorney at Bell & Raskin Strauss here in Lake County, and I'm also on the board of directors of Sunrise Arc. I'd like to congratulate our new Senator, Alan Hayes, and our new Representative, Larry Metz, on the recent elections, and to thank all the members of the delegation for your support of Sunrise Arc and in not reducing services to people with developmental disabilities in last session. Sunrise Arc is a state and local partner in supporting the needs of people with developmental disabilities and works hard to reduce costs and add capacity to the state service system. In the upcoming session, we would ask that you support Senator Altman and Representative Ford's bill, which would create a developmental disability savings fund. It's much like the prepaid college tuition fund that's already in effect. This is a great private-public partnership that will help and encourage families to participate in their developmentally disabled child's future after high school.
Do you have a bill number?
I do not, but I will get that information to you. Absolutely. The next issue that we would love your support on is the iBudget program. We would ask that you support implementation of this program. Senator Hayes is actually coming in front of the Children, Families, and Elder Affairs Committee on Tuesday. This is a fantastic program that would make more equitable and efficient use of our limited resources as a more refined and tailored approach to providing funding to those with disabilities.
What's the name of that again? The I what?
It's the iBudget.
Oh, okay.
And now, as far as managed care is concerned, Sunrise Arc acknowledges the need to reform Medicaid 100%. We just ask that the stakeholders and advocates be allowed to participate in the decision this year. As far as funding, we understand these are incredibly dire and difficult financial times, but people with developmental disabilities are among the state's most vulnerable citizens, and their health and safety needs to be protected by the state of Florida. So we just ask that any cuts that need to be made be as minimal as possible. In following weeks, we look forward to meeting with you, answering any questions that you might have, and we thank you very much for your support.
Okay, you have questions?
Can you elaborate a little bit on how the savings plan works? I understand, for our retirement plan, so there's no federal taxation, but how does this savings plan have an advantage at the state level?
At the state level, I can actually provide you more information on Senator Altman and Representative Ford's bill. There's also a memorial bill that is being considered to the U.S. Congress asking them to support the ABLE Act, which would allow parents to create tax-deferred savings accounts to provide funding for disability-related services to children as well.
So if I hear you, we need some federal action for the Ford-Altman bill to be effective.
As far as federal, absolutely.
All right, thank you. Okay, members, now we'll go to Kathy Williamson from AARP. And next on the agenda is Florida Lung Association, actually the American Lung Association, and we don't know which individuals can be here, but if you're here, you're next, so you're on deck.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Kathy Williamson. I live in Leesburg, and I'm here representing AARP. First of all, I appreciate the opportunity to address you today. And this is on behalf of over 3 million AARP members in Florida, and of course I'm from Lake County. AARP has a tradition of advocacy to protect and improve the lives of our members as we live and age. Yadira has a handout. If you don't already have that, you just got it out too.
Members who have it on the table.
So that's just, yes. Okay, thank you. Thank you. I'd like to say that AARP truly understands the challenges that the legislature has faced during the past several years in governing with an ever-shrinking budget. AARP's legislative priorities for 2011 keep Florida's budget situation in mind. Our first priority area that we'd like to discuss is Medicaid reform. So similar to the last speaker, we would like to urge the legislature to take a deliberate but timely approach to reform Medicaid that doesn't rush into changes that would harm current recipients or the delivery system. We believe that reform implementation, especially the long-term care and persons with disabilities, should be phased in. This will allow time for local systems to be developed that include sufficient types and numbers of providers, both professional and residential, so that service recipients have ample choices. AARP concurs that Medicaid participants are best served by a program that delivers healthcare services that are coordinated and accessible. With that in mind, AARP would shift the debate from managed care to care coordination or even care management. The distinction between these approaches is that care should always come first. We encourage the legislature to continue implementing the medical home concept. As you recall, we did pilot projects on that in the past. This is a time-tested and evaluated concept that can work for Florida. Medical homes are a proven bottom-up approach that allows communities to tailor networks and provider programs to address unique needs and resources of the community served. A second area that's of concern to us is home and community-based services. Although Florida has one of the oldest populations in the nation, it ranks nearly at the bottom of all states in per capita spending on homes and community-based services. AARP supports the reallocation of Florida's long-term care dollars toward a greater use of home and community-based services. These services are more cost-effective and also allow people to have more choices. An overwhelming majority of 50-plus Floridians want to be able to choose how and where they receive long-term care services. Increasing access to home and community-based services will give Floridians the quality service alternatives they prefer, while providing services that are generally less expensive. Furthermore, it can lower long-term care spending by preventing or delaying the placement of seniors in institutional settings. While there will always remain a need for nursing home care for the frailest of our individuals, if services can be provided in an alternate setting, then home and community-based services should be a priority service delivery mechanism. Thank you so much for your time today. If you have any further questions, of course, we have a strong staff at Tallahassee as well as us in contact.
Thank you. And thank you for all that you do. I will tell you,
Even though I think AARP is a fabulous organization, I was somewhat offended to receive a card in the mail this year, and I have not yet hit 50, and I thought it was a little premature. But I can't wait.
You're
Law Association, would you please identify yourself for the record, and members, we do have some materials behind tab 11.
Thank you. My name is Joe Hell. I'm a volunteer for the American Lung Association and a father of a child with lung disease. I'm here on behalf of 2 million Floridians who suffer from lung disease, while other leading causes of death have seen some decline. Lung disease and illness continues to rise. We need your help. In the U.S., there are more than 440,000 preventable tobacco-related deaths each year. In Florida, nearly 29,000 deaths annually are attributed to tobacco use. It is anticipated that over 35,000 kids under the age of 18 will begin smoking this year. A third of these sons and daughters can expect to die from smoking. In November 2006, Florida voters overwhelmingly approved a referendum which requires that the Florida legislature annually fund a comprehensive statewide tobacco education and prevention program, allocating 15% of the tobacco settlement money to meet those ends. We simply ask that you continue to do this. The state constitution also mandates that Florida adheres to the CDC's best practices for comprehensive tobacco control programs, which consist of 5 essential components: state and community intervention, health communications, cessation, evaluation, and administration. According to the CDC's best practices, this community-based model for changing social norms is based on evidence that it has the greatest social impact. We ask that you continue to remain consistent with the Florida Constitution and not allow these funds to be distributed elsewhere. The American Lung Association remains a committed partner with our Florida legislature to maintain this program intact and in compliance with the CDC's best practice guidelines. Finally, the American Lung Association and the citizens of Florida commend the Florida Legislature for demonstrating your support by funding research conducted by the James and Esther King Biomedical Research Program and the Bankhead Coley Cancer Research Program. These programs have provided funds for valuable research targeting improved treatments for tobacco-related diseases, including lung cancer. At this time,
The party's over. Larry says, Representative Metz says, Dr. Mojob will do anything to get more funding.
Well, we'll try it again. At this time, I'd like to submit the resources available to the American Lung Association for your information or expert testimony regarding the issues brought forth. You can contact us at 1-800-LUNG-USA. And finally, on behalf of the American Lung Association, the citizens of Florida, myself and my son, I want to thank you. And thank you for your time.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay.
Getting to the end of our agenda, we have Florida Long-Term Care Ombudsman Program, Choice Edwards, Legislative Chairman. And you dear, please bring me the rest of the speaking part. Welcome.
Thank you. Senator and Representative, I am Choice Edwards, Legislative Chair of the Withlacoochee Area Long-Term Care Ombudsman Program.
Members behind Kathy.
And I don't know if there are any other ombudsmen here, but Charlotte Ploss is here, and she's our outstanding ombudsman for last year for Withlacoochee. Members of the delegation, you have a long day, and I appreciate that you have more long days ahead of you during the legislative session. So I thank you for your time. Florida's volunteer long-term care ombudsman program represents approximately 376 citizen volunteer ombudsmen responsible for investigation and resolving complaints in over 4,000 facilities representing over 186,000 beds or citizen residents in the state of Florida. We are advocates for residents who are among the most vulnerable citizens you represent. Our mission is to protect the health, safety, welfare, and civil rights of long-term care residents by investigating and resolving complaints, promoting the enforcement of laws and regulations, and advising and recommending policy to state and federal governments on long-term care issues. For this legislative session, we advocate just 4 proposals. Our first proposal, amend Chapter 429 of the Florida statute to require an adult living facility to provide written notice 45 days before a planned relocation, specifically to the resident being relocated and his or her legal representative, and permit the resident to challenge a proposed relocation or termination of residency in a neutral forum. This proposal will provide residents with due process, specific notice, and an opportunity to be heard through a neutral hearing process and enable a smoother relocation when justified and necessary. For example, a resident develops an illness, is admitted to the hospital, and the resident recovers. The facility, however, refuses to take the resident back due to the development of this medical issue. Currently, the resident has no recourse, or a resident may simply be discharged for complaining too much. Our second proposal, amend Florida statute to make long-term care ombudsman program representatives' personal information exempt from public disclosure. You see, ombudsman personal information must be protected just as other investigators' information is protected. Many other volunteer as well as staff investigators are protected. 75% of ombudsman volunteers are 60 years of age or older. We have the same need to be protected as other types of investigators. Our third proposal, Amend section of the Florida statute by requiring facilities to display the ombudsman-provided poster in multiple conspicuous places throughout the facility. This statutory revision would strengthen residents' rights by ensuring that residents have information about the long-term care ombudsman program prominently displayed and readily available to them. Again, these residents are the most vulnerable citizens you represent. And finally, our fourth proposal. Amend the Florida statute to permit volunteers to receive a per diem rate for meals rather than a specific meal reimbursement. Permitting the department to provide a per diem rate will relieve